takes place in Lee, which is part of Wigan Borough, and we are now into the second year of the programme. It's funded over the 3 years by Children in Need, and in the first year we have monies from Youth Music. We've just found out that we've got monies again from September, so we've had a bit of a break of that funding, which has been very annoying, but not to worry. It's term time based, and it runs as a Saturday club, which is very central to where the children live, so they can walk there in the morning. It's for children aged 5 to 12, and in that club they create music, they compose music, they DJ, they create performances, stories, drama, they do dancing using genres from around the world, from Bollywood to traditional Eastern European dance forms and hip-hop. And every term they make up lots of stories that they perform, and they're their own artistic leaders. And we call them the artistic directors of the programme. And they're also working with absolutely amazing artists who get this work and can also deliver top quality development for those children, which includes our partnership with Wigan Music Service, who are, we have the resources for the children to learn to play instruments in their schools. So they're able to bring that skill development and learning into the Saturday sessions. And we think that's a really high quality opportunity for children. When it was a productive industrial city, which provided the kind of the cohesive structures for people to live within and progress, like the trades councils. And I have to say that I did work with the mining unions in the 80s in Wigan, in Goulburn, and different parts of the borough. And they were the structures that were able to bring in outside influences to work with their communities. All that's gone now. And its biggest employers are retail, social and health care, and some small manufacturing base. And within that you've got also high unemployment, and Lee doesn't any longer even have a railway station. So it's really difficult to get there. It's difficult for people to get out. I'm trying not to paint an impoverished picture of the people of Lee, because the people of Lee are diverse and they're different. But what the Wigan Borough hasn't had, unlike other Greater Manchester boroughs, is a larger percentage of migrant communities coming to those areas. And it wasn't until, I think, on the 2001 census, it was 98.50% of its population was was a British, white British. And after that, after the 2001 dispersal programme, we started to see the dispersal of asylum seekers to the borough. There weren't many of them, but they stood out. So it was a difficult place for many to settle. It wasn't the easiest of places to come to. That was followed in 2008 and onwards by European settlement from Eastern Europe, in particular from one significant group was a Romani community, Eastern European communities, who settled in the Lee area. And the young people in particular were finding a lot of hostility, effectively, having multiple problems in terms of being accepted at school, school exclusions, stigma, which resulted in being blamed for all the crime in the town, but whereas the police statistics very clearly made it clear that had nothing to do with the Romani community, but the actual perception of the Romanis, that the people that came in, made trouble, stole from your house, burgled from your house. This wasn't the actual reality. So huge barriers to climb. So we work with the youth service who we've been working with since 2004, really supporting their diverse communities, and those communities had evolved and morphed into working with Eastern European communities. And with further cuts to the services, we ended up creating a project with the young children from the Eastern European Romani communities from Czech Republic, Slovakia, and other countries, Lithuania, Romania. Because when we did start working with them, the impact was almost immediate and notable. And also, the local authority felt they could do more with their resources by targeting children at a much earlier age to help their integration into society. So we created a project working with the Camosi Juniors Performing Arts Group, which was effectively to run over 3 years. We needed that time to be able to really develop that offer and make it work. I have to say that the programme, it's supported, the aim is to support the needs of young children, 5 to 12. The group is supported by parents, local schools, volunteers. We're working within a wonderful partnership with the Wigan Music Service, 3 local primary schools, the Ethnic Minority Achievement Service, which is a part of the Education Service, who are there to help support children from different BAME communities. And what has been quite overwhelming in recent years is the partnership with parents and carers of the children, who have been absolutely fantastic supporters of the project. They're even offering money to the programme, which is, you know, incredible. So that's what the project does. I think just in terms of the background, I'll just quickly talk about the 3 major outcomes for the project. This is what we're aiming to do, because I think it might be helpful. There are 3 things. We aim to increase self-confidence and self-esteem amongst Roma children in Lee through a supportive learning environment that values Romani cultural heritage and their developing local identities. Outcome 2 is to increase musical and performance skills amongst that group and other children in Lee through provision of high-quality music-making activities. Outcome 3 was to increase positive interaction and profile with people from the wider community in Lee and beyond through encouraging all local children to participate in the workshops in the programme and by performing their work locally in schools and through performances that they've developed. So an important to the children was opportunities for them to artistically connect with their local community, music repertoires that reflected Romani cultural heritage, which was Eastern European traditional music, as well as connecting the children to other shared popular musical cultures, hip-hop, a bit of Taylor Swift, you know, there you go. But also, you know, they were introduced to lots of other genres. Having worked in that very broad genre, they were interested in lots of music, and like one of their favourite musics was Bollywood, and you know, for all the children. So that was an interesting thing to come back on the project. The positive conversations around Roma culture, the opportunities to everybody to come together through the Saturday Club, and really important opportunities to showcase the children's skills and talent through performances with schools, community settings, and other local events. Also to encourage the children's confidence and ability to express ideas and bring ideas to the group, and for those ideas to be considered and taken seriously. Those were very important parts of the programme. Magdalene's going to tell us more now about the actual story of the children themselves.
On the Comosi Junior Performing Arts Group, there's 39 core members, which includes children from Slovakia, Czech, Romani backgrounds, white British, African Caribbean, and Filipino Chinese heritage. That was made up of 56% Roma, 25% white British, 17% African Caribbean, and the rest other. But since the government has changed and attitudes have changed, I've seen that a lot of families have returned back to either Romania, Czech, and also other parts of England like Liverpool and London. So there's been definitely a drop in the Romani children to 50%. Having worked with all the artists on the programme, it's definitely broadened the views on what they would like, because initially we done the consultation to find out what they're interested in, and we brought in loads of different styles of music, from opera to Italian, traditional English, and as Scylla said before, they love Taylor Swift. But that was a way in, and since then, we, through youth music, we were able to work with the principal music leader, who had a lot of skills in Eastern European genres, plus we had guest artists coming in like Satellites, State Disco, to do DJing and workshops with the children, and also looked at mixing cultural folk beats, and through that they started to embrace a lot of different cultural musics and dances, and definitely it's something that I think has made the Romani children feel more included, because to see other children really appreciating their culture and also being able to share that and be able to be comfortable to do that has definitely developed them in terms of everyone in terms of confidence. And also I think what really works on this program is the diversity of the artists as well. So we have artists who are either from backgrounds or descendants from Africa, EU, South Asia, Caribbean backgrounds, myself, which has helped the children to be inspired as well and to be more and to understand where each other is coming from. Also, what I'd say that's been really important on this project is the children are all different in different ways, and they embrace that and they learn about each other, so there's not been any hostility within the group at all, which for me is just like really amazing. Some of the things in terms of in terms of case studies is it has brought the parents and hearers together because they see their children progressing and learning, and their well-being has been improved, they've got lots of skills developed, and also their confidence as well, which through some volunteers from the schools has been able to feed that back to us as well about how that you can definitely track that progression much easier. And one of the children's parents, he was very unsure about interacting with people from the Romani background. But when he saw his daughter, that she was really enjoying it, she went home singing the songs, doing the dances, I think that it changed his perception. And I think from this work that a lot of examples like that has been coming through. And also having participated in International Roma Day, because each International Roma Day, which is in April, we have a big production. And some of the children from Lee have started to embrace their own culture as well, asking for music from their backgrounds, because they think that, I think seeing how important it was to the Romani children and African children, that it was really important for them to also embrace their own and bring their own traditional stories and dances and things. I think through this project, children have learned more about their own identity and about each other. And through the music, I think the music was a really good way in terms of to introduce dance, to introduce culture. And I always, with working with the children, we never really talk about culture as something. It's just something that is there. And it's organically being worked with rather than saying you're from this community or that community, because I think that would definitely encourage separation. So after the children learned about the music and the pop music, they started to look at like the Bollywood, the African traditional forms, as well as Italian, because some of the children that we work with came over from Italy and they only spoke Italian. But through this project, we encourage storytelling. And as part of that storytelling, we look at stories like Pandora's Box. We have Alice in Wonderland, but we changed that to Alice in Lee. We're currently working on the Wizard of Oz, but we changed that to the Wizard of Lee. But with all the children bringing their own languages and their own cultures, for example, in the Alice in Lee, we had a multicultural caterpillar who spoke different languages, who made up different dances, and that was all about what the children wanted to bring, and part of them shaping their work. And so, depends on who's in the group, that will change, and they will bring. But just to finish off, I'd like to say that one of our partners said it brought together the children and their families, and it enabled them to build stronger relationships within their communities at school and the wider community. And I think through the high quality performance arts activity, it gives children an opportunity to learn a musical instrument in school, to retain that instrument and take it home and they can practice, and also to work with a very high profile artist that it definitely has enabled them to gain that confidence that they need and to also make a change and a difference. And Ellie Sherwood, who we work with, she was a musical leader on the project, and she said she's never seen children learning so many different cultures, cultural music, and so many different instruments on a project. And finally, it is an integrated, I think, socially cohesive group and all children have the same cultural offer. The project achieved that what we wanted to do, which was a social mix of children, which greatly helped the Roma children to integrate and make new friends, not only in the group but through the community. And this has increased positive interaction and understanding from members of the wider community, as the evidence is shown in the school and also in the community. All the children benefited and hugely enjoyed the program. And developed their confidence, and they've taken part in all of the opportunities that were offered. Their confidence on the Saturday morning project and at home and at school has made huge gains in their skills as musicians and creative skills in drama and dance.
Is it worth just to finish, I mean, one of the things perhaps important to point out as well, is it helped to break down stigma and ignorance from some of the service providers as well. An example of that was the schools were very adamant, some of the schools, actually not all of them, that the children shouldn't be allowed to take home their instruments because they'll damage them, they won't bring them back, they'll lose them, all the prejudices that often people display. Actually, this isn't just about race, it's about class as well. You know, that children from poor backgrounds can't look after their instruments. And there were lots of quotes from teachers saying, well, I'm really amazed at how supportive parents have been. You know, I think the schools were quite taken aback by how supportive the parents were, making sure the children, you know, looked after their instruments and all those kind of things. So similarly with the Wigan Music Service, which, as far as I understand, they have very limited kind of diverse cultural music offer. They've been absolutely amazing, but, you know, the starting point for us was that this had to be about a lot of learning as well. And we were just really pleased that we're able to, you know, to really take to that challenge and learn from it. And I think, you know, from all the things that they've said, that they have really benefited, and it's made them see things differently. I mean, perhaps I shouldn't say it, but, you know, there's kind of early meetings that you have with people where, I think the first time I went to Wigan, I was asked if I drank English drinks. I'm sorry, but I was asked that. But it was all right. It was ignorance more than anything else. And in this instance is the way that people perceive people, Roman people. Do they all live in caravans, you know, and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of barriers to overcome, but it's only when we start talking to each other that we can start really, or creating those environments where people feel they can have those conversations with each other, enjoy each other's company, that we can start breaking down those barriers. Thank you. Take your questions now, all right?
Yeah, because a respondent
that Roman community you're speaking about, are they a settled migrant community, or are they a travel community?
No, that they have come from Eastern Europe as part of a migrant worker community. The families have moved to Britain to make a better life, to escape persecution of the Eastern European Roma in the countries that they've come from. So they've come to make a better life and to get work. And they've been coming here since 2008. So they're a relatively new community.
But they're a settled community as opposed to a traveller community that are moving and working.
Well,
that's one of the challenges. I've worked with the minority advisory service in Tameside.
Yeah.
One of the challenges there is that if you have children in schools who might be there for sort of 3 months and then they're moving on, those things that you can establish as cultural practices or education is much more challenging because you don't know how long you've got.
Yeah, I mean, that will certainly be the case for some of the children, but there will be children that will settle. It will be a mixture of both, because obviously it's a new situation. I think
we're just going to start with the
that's
respondent.
very mixed.
So do you want the respondents? We can go over time a little. Yeah. So if there's maybe one more question and then Mira does the respondent, yeah? Just one question.
It's more than a question, actually, kind of along. It was your question that you put. It's two different things that would be instructable. Let's say with your answer is like when you say a Roma, because I myself am a Roma person. So if you were to say the Roma travelers, normally they're not. Why I can say, and I just want to clarify this, as being a Roma person and living there for 33 years and being with this community. They are not movers, they are migrant workers. And they're moving, it could be a moving house, not travel, they don't live in caravan, as you say, nowhere. The Romanians who come from East European, they don't live in caravans. One of the things. And second, they are coming, as you said before, because of work and looking opportunities for new opportunities. They travel miles and miles, and if they need to travel again in life for a house or maybe city in order to look on opportunities, they will do that. They're not moving because they're travelers. They're moving because of opportunities. And also, one it could be, just to give you like a very short example. Let's say I will give my cousin is coming from let's say from Romania, right? And she's coming and living with me. But she will then find a house because at the moment she doesn't have a work, she doesn't have enough money, she will stay with me and use my address. But then in like maybe a month and a week or two, she maybe find a house her own, find a job, and then she will be moving on. She can move nearly helps to me because it may be supporting, but also she can move in a different way, very more easy, like traveling to work, looking like housing, and also looking at the opportunities with skills. Because it's like a single mom or two parents, they're working, they try to find a place that is nearby school, that is nearby GP and transport, and they're also looking at the same things what others are looking. They're not travelers, they are more stable, but they're also looking at opportunities new. They're coming from Romania, finding a better life. And if that better life looks into moving quite a bit, they are very flexible with moving just because I'm looking at new opportunities, not because they're travelers.
Yeah, that kind of fits the pattern.
Yeah,
The people that have moved on to Liverpool and or gone back.
Yeah,
Maybe you want to
just because of
respond.
opportunities.
Well, maybe give the respondent a chance to.
Yeah. So Mira, will we hear?
Yeah, I'm Margaret. I'm mostly subject 12. So the first time was in satellite state disc, they brought Cal from Serbia, who are very well known. They call themselves a rock and roll band. They did a workshop with some of the Camosi young people. They were teenagers, and they ended up joining them on stage and emceeing with them and beatboxing. And the second time was with this young group that you can see on the screen. And we did some very basic workshops, which were kind of an introduction to electronic DJing, I guess, and also DJing with vinyl decks as well. And it was really interesting because it broke some of our perceptions as well of what would happen. We were assuming that on the vinyl decks and on the electronics as well, that a lot of the boys would rush to the front and that they would try and take controls. And it was really interesting because actually on the vinyl decks, it was the girls that were ruling the room, really, and they had full control, and they were the ones that were saying, "I want to go on that," and the boys stood back. And we also saw that there were very young girls who were beatboxing as well. There's such a wealth of talent there. And when Cal came to Manchester and they were talking to the young people, they were saying, there's different things that are associated with different communities. And for the Roma community, it's music. Music is a strength. The arts is a strength for Roma communities. And that kind of recognition is really important. And it's something which can be used to, it can support the people who have moved over here, who have become part of communities. It can help build those bridges. Like in Lee, I guess after the Camosi project, there was a newspaper story, and in some of the online comments underneath, you could kind of see that maybe Lee was going to be heading for a Brexit vote. That's what I was kind of thinking when I saw some of those comments. Why is the council funding these people? That was the kind of comment. Rather than seeing these people as outsiders, rather than
that's part of a long historic. From our early days in Lee, and in Wigan, the BNP, the organisations we've been working with, have been really viciously targeting the activity of the youth service, work of the youth service, and our work. And it's been something we've had to navigate, which is not pleasant. And similarly, what happened with, I think I mentioned earlier, part of the aim was also to get good publicity for the project in local papers. That was really important. That's proved very difficult because as soon as they produce a really good article, positive article, it is followed up by letters from people talking about the immigrants getting the money and all the rest of it. And it was felt that because actually these kids have to live in this community, it's better just to be quiet for a while. We're trying to kind of regroup and think, how can we do that, you know? But this is not something we can solve on our own. Basically, we can't do it on our own, and we have to listen to our partners locally because it's very quick for things to whip up. Wigan voted 68% leave, and which is very high. We're not surprised, but it's actually, you know, has been the pattern in a lot of predominantly, you know, majority British, white British areas, not exclusively.
Yeah, I recognise that because I'm from a town where there's a party like UKIP, PVV, and it's also a majority. When we offer the activities to the children, mainly from refugee backgrounds, mainly from asylum-seeking families, but we always promote it as open to anybody. You know, so anybody can come, anybody's welcome, and then there is a majority of people with a refugee background. Otherwise we don't survive in the media either.
Yeah. We're going to roll forward with the next case study and keep the questions until later.
So I'm just going to very quickly introduce project play. It's called Tom Molyneux. So as I said, I'm a writer, and one of my interests is the social history of sport. It's something incredibly rich in this country, every country, definitely in this country. Actually, quite often overlooked. Someone was saying about, I was reading a book about history about particular sporting history between the wars. And it was saying that in all the major social histories of that time, sport gets a mention in a chapter. And this is at a time when a huge percentage of the population is going to live sporting events. So, so that's interesting to me. Also, of course, it had brilliant stories. And one of these stories that I found about this guy called Tom Molyneux, who was an American, a freed slave. Some of the facts about his life are a bit hard to be definite about, but it seems that he fought for his freedom in one of these pretty horrific situations, and he's being kind of promoted by his slave owner, but then did become free, went to New York, and came to this country in 1810, and very quickly became a sort of superstar of the time. He was a fantastic boxer. It was the time that boxing sort of / prize fighting. It was before it was really properly codified, although there were rules, but it was happening all around the country, semi-legal, very tied up with gambling. It was a time when they'd started to feel that bear baiting and dog fighting were maybe not that pleasant, so they thought actually just blokes hitting each other over long periods of time. You know, these fights could each round last until someone was knocked over. So and then the fight ends when someone can't get up again. So they could last 30, 40 rounds, several hours, generally outside. And the big fights, so Tom Molyneux's two biggest fights, there were crowds of 15, 20, 25,000 people going out into the countryside in the middle of winter and witnessing this incredible spectacle. The newspapers were one of the comments says that there was more about Molyneux's biggest fight against the English champion than there was about the Napoleonic Wars at the time. This is what everyone was talking about. There was huge money involved. Not surprisingly, very little of that money ended up in the pockets of the boxers. So I could carry on talking about that for a while. I'm going to stop just about that. So I found a story. I thought that's a really interesting play. And then for me, it started with where I live in southeast London. There's a theatre I've worked before, a little theatre, studio theatre. I thought, I wonder if we could do something there. And then the first thought for me is how we can get the audience. And I heard someone saying recently about rather than sort of community engagement, they like to talk about audience engagement. And as a writer and producer, in some ways I find that more comfortable because it's a sort of very honest transaction. I want people to come and see the play. So how are you going to do that? And the obvious thing was to connect with boxing clubs. And then the other thing that appeals to me about this story is that without being any expert, I'm just aware that the history of boxing is very intertwined with the history of migration. Boxers historically I knew that it was in this country and it was in America, but actually, when you speak to people in other European countries, often it's the case. It's obviously also because boxing is the history of poverty, because it's the people who are willing to, especially in this time, to put themselves through that. It has quite low barriers to entry. There's not a lot of kit you have to buy. Clubs spring up, and that continues to be the case. There are boxing clubs still, in spite of everything in some way, still survive and thrive today, often run by volunteers, often in the poorest parts of town, often with people from very diverse backgrounds. I thought that was a good link up. Started talking to guys in South East London, boxing club. I was a bit nervous, I'll confess, going to speak to the boxing club. Couldn't have been more welcoming to some bloke coming in saying, oh, this theatre project. Very welcoming. And that has actually been true of every boxing club that I've approached. And these are mostly run by volunteers. And if any, if any my experience in theatres, often, they're not the best at getting back to you. Or saying, boxing clubs, total contrast. And I've had that experience in a few places, that the boxing clubs, generally with very little money, they're very humble about, they do really fantastic stuff. So the project then became, in the next 15 seconds, connecting theatres and boxing clubs, started in South East London, and then different opportunities arose in different places. And the reason that I then got in touch with Kerry, who I'm now going to hand over to you, is because I'd been aware of this story of an Afghan young man who'd come to this country as a asylum seeker by the age of 14, and had become turned out to have a brilliant talent for boxing, and had then been sucked into the asylum system, was still there. He'd been, 8 years. Touch wood, he's just finally, they've appealed his case 3 times, So I thought, oh, that's a great story in Blackburn. I knew about that, and I knew Kerry from other work, but maybe we can come and do some of that in Blackburn. And we're then going to talk a little bit more now about the concept of doing this in Blackburn. Just before I hand over, just to say, so we did a research and development on the play in the autumn, and now the play with the various audience development, engagement stuff with boxing clubs and theatres in a few places around the country is going to be happening April and May.
Not bad. I'll be quick. Right, so I'm Kerry and I work for Action Factory. I've been working there since 2009, but actually it's been in existence since 1985. And following the cutbacks in 2010, we've had no core funding at all. We used to get regular funding from the Arts Council, so it was quite a shock to suddenly go to zero. So since then, we've survived on projects and people paying us to do projects and us raising our own grant money. And following further cutbacks locally, our local council grant has gone down to something we're still very grateful to get, but it doesn't fund us in any way to keep going. As I say, we're still lucky to have it, because Blackburn with Darwen has faced massive cutbacks and is still going to, and quite a lot of people that I speak to at the council are losing their jobs regularly. So we are, in a way, that is a reflection of the situation in Blackburn with Darwen and a lot of other, particularly northern towns as a whole, I would imagine. Blackburn with Darwen is a unitary authority within Lancashire. Its population is just under 147,000. Most of those are in Blackburn. Darwen is a smaller town. Darwen only has 27,500 people. And if you think about the population, I was looking through the statistics and just thinking things people might be interested to know. In the census, it says that there are 65,000 jobs. So the people who are classed as economically inactive is a higher rate than the national average. And also, something that was quite interesting, and maybe it reflects other towns, is that the majority of the larger wage earners are people who commute into the borough. They're not people who live in the borough. Residents earn significantly lower levels of wages. And as someone who now lives in the borough, I can confirm that. Yes. Ethnicity, because obviously we're speaking about different cultural backgrounds and communities. White population, which includes British, Irish, Gypsy, Irish traveller and other, as defined in the census. That's 69.2% of the population. Indian is at 13.4%, which is the 11th highest in England, and Pakistani is 12.1%, which is the 6th highest in England. We've had a lot of publicity, obviously. Blackburn with Darwin has featured heavily in the council report not so long ago, so we've hit the headlines in all positive ways, which tells us about how segregated we are. And obviously there's a lot of focus on Muslim population. That's something that gets brought up quite a lot. So just to mention that the percentage of people in the borough identifying themselves as Muslim is 27%. Which is the 3rd highest in England, and Christian 52%. And 37% of the people who were born outside the UK have migrated since the year 2000, so there's quite a lot of relatively new populations. Blackburn with Darwin has been a receiving borough. Previously, Jack Straw was the Blackburn MP, and he was the Home Secretary at one time. So obviously that became important for his borough to be seen as an area where they were receiving people from areas of conflict, and so people came from Bosnian conflict and onwards. And Blackburn with Darwin is often seen as somewhere that people come and kind of study, because there are a lot of other areas in Lancashire and around the northwest who are now starting to receive refugee and asylum-seeking communities who haven't got as much experience, so we quite often get people coming to visit. And there are some very well-established projects who work with refugee and asylum-seeking communities in the area. And we work with them a lot, Action Factory does. I've been working there since 2009, and my job when I first started was a part-time position. It was supposed to be temporary, just 2 years. So it's carried on, and it's grown quite a lot. We've recently gone down to 2 staff, so I am now half of the company. So I do quite a lot of different jobs. And my interest, and the thing that I was always asked to do, was to work very much with the refugee and asylum seeking community, and it's something I've continued. And the way that I met Tom was because I'm the North West coordinator for Refugee Week, which sounds grander than it is really. It's a voluntary position, and it's something where I try and put people in contact with each other and try and help people share what they're doing and how they could work together. But what it does mean is in Blackburn with Darwin, people seize on me very gratefully and say, oh good, you can coordinate stuff here. so I do a lot in Blackburn with Darwin for Refugee Week, and I've met people like Estelle from the Regional Asylum Project. So that's our connection with new communities. We also do work within arts and mental health. We do work with older people. We have a youth theatre. When we have much bigger projects, we did a performance a couple of years ago where we took over Blackburn Cathedral, and we worked with 7 different groups in the local community, all from different backgrounds, and we worked with Avais Mohammed and various other artists. Magdalene was one of them actually. And it was fantastic, you know, to see all the different communities telling their stories. But we also carry on. We've been there for 32 years, and we intend to be there a lot longer. And we work on a very kind of day-to-day level with a lot of different communities. Is there anything else I should say?
Not right now. So let me just introduce Tinter and Mary. So the idea with Action Factory and elsewhere, from my point of view, to do creative work in the boxing clubs. Primarily, that was the idea, to say you can't just invite people to come along and see a show, because probably they won't come. But also it seemed like an opportunity to connect theatres or theatre makers with boxing clubs. But what Kerry has at Action Factory is a brilliant community of volunteers and participants who've all been involved in amazing shows in the past. So the first thing that I did was when came up and did a couple of creative sessions with the groups, and sort of started about boxing. So we did a bit of boxing movement, not that I'm qualified to show that, but we bust it. And then some writing. And I thought it'd just be nice to have Tintra and Mary just to read what they've written. It would be nice to share that. So, Mary, do you want to go first?
Yeah, will do. I was always in trouble when I was young. People told me that I was no good. In and out of prison, always doing crime. Took drugs and alcohol till I was senseless on the ground. Believed that I had no future, so what the heck. Only by chance I went in the gym. Asked would I like to go in the ring. Why not, I thought, I'm bored to death. One punch from me, that fella will go in a heap. I don't think. He moved me left foot to another with grace and ease. Told me to follow exactly as he. A couple of years gone now, I'm fighting for real. 10 fights under my belt. The fight of my career is now at hand. World title fight, butterflies in my stomach, bad-tempered as hell. Come on, you can do it. Round 1. I'm on my bum. What the hell hit me? Come on, get up. The ref is counting. Round 2. Pounding gets worse, my nerves get better, confidence oozes through my body to my fist. I give a right, and then a left, and then another right, then a blow to the stomach, down he goes. Round 3. The bell dings, we're both on our toes. My opponent is a southpaw. He flies his fists right on my chin. Another to follow in between my eyes. I'm dizzy, can't see, my legs go from under me. Down I go in a heap on the floor. Look on my side, the bell goes, end of the round. Smelling salts under my nose, swabs tightening up the cuts to stop bleeding. Grease put on my face, the stench of sweat and fear is overwhelming. Round 4. I'm all over the place, double vision too. Pull yourself together or you will lose. We both fought ferociously, our lives depending on it. Fight for your future, come on, throw the fist, make them connect. Don't stop now, don't give up. Blood pouring from both of us. I ducked and dived, I moved like lightning, the crowd was roaring. I gathered all my strength and belief in myself. A punch came from my right hand with such power, as quick as a lightning, my fist connected full on. He stood there, arms fell at his side, eyes shot up in his head. He fell forward, flat on his face, blood spurted all over the place. The ref shoved me away to a corner, the doctor came under the ropes. There was a discussion, the ambulance was called. Silence befell the auditorium. I'd won the world title, my goal found, but I was looking at him on the ground, lifeless.
Just before we move on, could you just say a bit about the work that you've done with Action Factory?
Oh, right.
You've got some of the one or two of the shows that you've done.
Let me see.
First one was the mill one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Daisy-field Mill.
We did one in a cotton mill. My first job when I left school, I was a winder and creamer in a cotton mill, so that come into this performance. And so on.
And what was great in the group is that the way Kerry sets up, you have Mary and others working also with young people who are new in the town. To me, this kind of the history here is really, and this was leading on to what's going to happen is that these guys are going to be doing the sessions in the boxing clubs with the young boxers. So rather than me doing it, they're going to do it. Not necessarily fighting them, but you know that may happen. Tinta, I don't know what you've got there, but
well, mine is very tiny, but I'll try and explain because I think it might get a bit confusing. This is a poem. I wrote it based on a female character, so you may, be hearing some word like, I'm a woman, but I'm a man, but yeah. So don't get confused. It's a very small poem, not so great, but I thought maybe I just read it. This is who I am. I'm the greatest. I'm a woman in a man's society. I express my opinions in writing. I challenge men with words, but sometimes with mind. I am the greatest of all. I was born in the house of strong farmers with huge muscles, quick jabs and punches. I'm a woman of strong character. I'm a fighter with different words in different languages, written with white pens on black papers. I am full of thought and imagination, and often confuse my readers with pens and pencils. I'm a force to be reckoned with, but sometimes I get bombarded by my opponent with strong words, written in black ink and red. I'm sometimes emotional, but I don't stay down after a defeat. I'm brave, but sometimes weak. I get drunk often reading my own lines, scribbles with pencils. I'm the greatest like a mountain. I'm the weakest like a chicken. I'm a woman like Joan of Arc.
That was kind of inspired by Muhammad Ali. We ended up doing poems around "I'm the Greatest." We probably better stop. I just seem to just to give you a bit of context into about, because you're working a lot of other ways as well locally, aren't you? Translation.
I'm an interpreter with the ARC project as a refugee community. People like Esther, will know better about our organization. I interpret in French and Arabic and many other African languages as a volunteer in Blackburn. I also had a chance to work with Kerry as an amateur actor. I performed at Blackburn Cathedral 2013, I think.
You've performed at the museum, the
Certainly,
library,
yeah. But I think
everywhere.
you said, as you said it yourself, that was one of my greatest performances. I did not like it because I was the villain, a bad guy. But I was punishing some of the refugees, some desert, like between Libya and Italy. So I was performing like, the soldier, this bad agent killing people. But they thought that was one of my greatest performances. We did that at Cathedral. So yeah, I did many performances with Carrie, so she really, did help me a lot, I wasn't as confident as I am today. And forgive me for my accent, I speak French, so that's my first language, so if you don't understand, I'm sorry about that.
You're a brilliant linguist. We probably better stop, so.
Yeah. Maybe let's take one or two questions and then go to Lisa, who's the respondent.
I'm trying to ask you a question. As a white writer, have you faced a lot of challenges kind of writing predominantly about a black protagonist in kind of the social history kind of platform that it's in?
Yeah, I was very aware of that and continue to be aware of it. I think my point of view, I suppose, why I feel that it was kind of valid to do was, first of all, I was seeing it as a sports story. And this was and a story that wasn't very widely known. I suppose the second thing was it was never intended as anything big. I was doing it in a local theatre and linking with the boxing clubs. I don't think it's an issue that can be fully answered. I suppose I would feel personally, I feel that writers should be free to write about whatever they choose. I think you can be free to write. The question is then what happens and how is it presented and what do you do with it and what the impact of it is. And I suppose as it's gone along from step to step, it's been right from the start, it's been in my mind about using it as a project to connect with people who aren't accessing the theatre. And maybe the position I'm in gives me a different opportunity to do that and to work with other people creatively. And then for the work itself, obviously, that brings up all kinds of issues in your mind as a writer about depiction and how you're telling the story. And I suppose I'm there to be criticised by people who see it, and that's fair enough.
Just waiting to see if there's another voice. Yeah.
There's an interesting mention to parallel to your work, because in the 1930s there was a boxer called Lynn Johnson. And Lynn Johnson started to fight in Bellevue, and one of the things about Bellevue is you'd have an established fighter, people would come in, and my father-in-law used to go down there and box, and he would also tell stories about he'd earned some money if he won a couple of rounds and survived, and he'd come home and his mother would give him more of a battering for having done the boxing then what he'd done from the other one. But Len Johnson's story is also a migrant story, because his background with it, I believe his mother was Irish and his father was African, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And Frontline Theatre, which was very popular in Manchester, and there was a white writer, Dan Barron-Cohen, who wrote, but they worked with young people in the community and staged the Len Johnson story and toured it around, so it's quite an interesting...
There are arts and boxing projects from films that it does lend itself to it. But having said that, I think the clubs that I've spoken to, and for me, so I'm working in about 5 different places, and the aspiration is to try and see how that can be developed as a kind of network, because they're brilliant places. Some of them effectively are just youth clubs with boxing attached, but they are bringing together, not just gentlemen, but actually
of artists who say, well, these places are very, very bare and minimal. Let's do some art projects here. It's good for the children. That's how that organization started 15 years ago. Since then, it's grown into an organization also wanting to work with young people, wanting to work with parents and children, but art was always the main focus. The project I want to tell about today comes out of a frustration, really, because even though I'm an artist and I like working with art and I see the benefit of it, I also saw that many people in the centers ask for many more things. They want you to translate letters, they want you to help with all sorts of issues that aren't really directly relatable to the art project that you're doing. And I saw also a lot of volunteers actually want to do that. But from our organizational perspective, we said, no, we stick to art projects, that's what we want to do. If we start doing all the other things, there's other organizations who should be doing that. Let's concentrate on artwork. So it was necessary from that frustration to say, let's start another organization in which we can do what we think is a good way to go. So in one of the refugee centers in Almere, we started with this organization in 2013, and basically committing ourselves to keep on working with art, but to also incorporate all the issues that came along with it, and to involve all the people, including all the questions they had and the talents they had and what they wanted to do. Shall I change it?
Yeah, if you go onto the other tab, Tom, yours is the next one along. At the top, yeah.
To the right.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'll do that first. Yeah. Okay. So this is what project I'm going to continue after this. And it works. Oh, I need to do this. Very well. Yeah.
Currently, Europe is struggling to deal with the crisis, and so far it has lacked the imagination and infrastructure to implement long-lasting and workable solutions. We believe that when people work together to share ideas and ambitions that benefit a community, then happiness, prosperity and security await us all. We have designed Dia Mondiale, Innovation Centre, City of the Future, a landscape to be built and inhabited by our community, consisting of people who have been displaced and uprooted. We will provide the training, equipment and expertise necessary to build green homes, community and innovation centres, and in doing so creating a new sense of feeling at home. We have teamed up with the local council of Almere, or in partnership with students and a panel of experts researching circular energy at Wageningen University. With thanks to the Challenge City of the Future initiative, we have also teamed up with Sustainer Homes and should be implementing their innovative, award-winning and self-sustaining technology. This is not new for us. For almost a decade, our team has specialised in working with and for communities and neighbourhoods in Almere. We have already built the biggest intercultural collaboration in the city, which houses 186 different nationalities, a perfect testing ground for 2 pilot programmes in the city centre and Almere Oosterwolde. We develop non-discriminatory, equal partnerships between the voluntary and statutory sector. Togetherness and community require compromise and the will to understand each other. Shared spaces require balance, and this is what we want to do with our housing cooperative, Dia Mondiale. This cooperative is determined in placing key decisions in the hands of families, single persons, and small social enterprises. We offer the opportunity for the Netherlands to take the lead in Europe by investing into a number of community interest companies which pioneer cultural, environmental, social, and entrepreneurial innovation. Support Dia Mondiale.
Yeah, can you just hold this? Or can someone? I think I've got 2 jobs today that conflict.
I'll just get round. Oh, you got it.
Right, so the centres, the refugee centres in Holland are different from here. It's where people go to straight away when they get into the country. They don't go and live in neighbourhoods, they come into a centre. They have to move a few times because the procedure is in such a way that when you've done one stage, you've got to move. So in the worst case scenario, you move 4 times. Well, that's just in the procedure, and in the meantime, centres close, centres open, so in reality, children and people move a lot. If you speak to people, they've moved 5, 6 times, sometimes 10 times. So they can't really settle anywhere. So from that perspective, we also have this national network of artists who do these different projects. With this project here, Dia Mondiale, we said, so it started off with an art project really in Almere, where we said, what do you need to feel at home? Even when you're in this situation, what do you need? So there was tens of people, parents, children, young people, they thought about this question. They made stuff, they made houses, they made designs, they made all sorts of things. And then we made an exhibition with all the stuff they made. One of the things we did was a funny project. We had sandbags and we built a little house outside in the camp just to try it. And then people really liked it, and then we built one in the exhibition space as well. It was a funny sort of dome structure made of sandbags. Yeah, that was the big one. So after this exhibition, people, they like to do that again and then really big. So in total, we spent about 70 days in the park to build that big house that you saw in the clip. And it was a really great project because you're just busy in the park, you're doing something everybody can do. Children, elderly people, everybody can help. And people did, so I think in total like hundreds of people helped to build this thing, and we were there every weekend going back to the park and continuing on this house until it was done. So, this is a camp. This is like where people are working on the home scene. And then we have the exhibition, and we have this little house inside the exhibition. I've gone very quickly through it. And here we're in the park. We're building a big structure with these sandbags. And it always sort of involves a crowd of people coming from the neighborhood, and also we always took some people from the refugee camp to go to the park to start off. And that was how we looked at the end. We started also some green projects with it, because we were in the park, and it's also sort of a bit easy at that time to get money for green projects, and we really wanted to make a garden around the building very nice. And in the end, we did a few gardens all over the town, where we just worked with different groups of volunteers, keeping the gardens nice. And we had this idea of making a place where we could do these type of projects, where we could really go one step further. So we had, for example, a lot of artists who were artists in Syria or Iran before who were really good, but who could not start anywhere in Holland. We had people who were very good at plastering, for example, with that little house. You know, there was one guy who was a master in plastering. There were electricians, there were all sorts of people, and we couldn't really offer them anything except for the idea, like, could we not make a place where we can live and do these things and just develop businesses and, you know, make it really big. And there was a lot of enthusiasm for that idea. So we thought, okay, let's write this down and let's see if we can start. And we approached it from really the wrong way, because we come from art projects, so we thought, okay, this is the project, this is what it costs, almost 3 million, where's the money? And then it didn't quite work like that. So for about 1.5 years, I went with this plan to people, to the council, to funds. Didn't work. And then beginning of 2016, I met another guy. He said, you need to look at this differently. So it's property. So you need to develop this property in a way that people understand how you do that. So from that time, it took off, and we are very far in the preparation stage now, and we will start building this year in July or August, around that time. And what we then have been able to do is to make a place of 2 hectares. It's Amsterdam, it's Almere. It's in this area, Oosterwold. It's a very special place because the land is cheap. It's like farmland. The only thing is, you have to do everything yourself. You have to make the roads, you have to build everything yourself. So this is the 2 hectares, which we made the design of a parking place and then 3 buildings with rented accommodation, like social housing, 1 community center, and then there's 4 families who are going to live there like in just like their own house. One of which is my house, this one. So this is what we've been working on. And I mean, we start off with really good ideas like this, and then you are in the reality of property and everything costs money, and so you also, you know, you have to change your ideas. You go with what you can have, what you can do. So we chose in the end to make really square designs. And then next to all the square designs, we're going to play with the landscape, with hills. So all these houses, like here you can see how with the dark green, it's like hills. So this is a square house, but the hill is on both sides, so you don't really see it as a box in the landscape. So this is how we try to make it a bit more natural and a bit more fitting with the landscape. So it will be something like that. And and people are involved all the way, so we do go to sessions with, this is the whole organizational thing now, so it's really complex. We had to start, first of all, we started this charity here. Can everybody see it? The charity, this is the starting point. So we said we have to start a housing co-op, and we have to start a fund in order to get this whole thing financed. So the idea is now that the housing fund is investing in and then the housing co-op will rent from the housing fund all these buildings and then rent them out again to other people. And also to rent this one out to charity. So it's complex, and we had to learn a lot. I had to learn a lot. I'm a property developer almost now. But it is a project where, you know, you couldn't have thought of this beforehand. It's really sort of, I went along with all the things that seemed like a good next step to do. And that's my story.
Oh, wow.
Could you elaborate on first of all, that is amazing. I think that what you're doing there is absolutely incredible. But you said you had to change your whole way of funding this project.
Yeah.
I know you just explained it a bit, but could you elaborate on that more? Because I want to get my head around that.
So with art projects, you basically say, I'm doing something really useful, can you please give me the money? Yeah. And then you wait until somebody says yes. This works because it's a good business proposition. So what comes in and what goes out makes sense to a bank and to any financier. So the fund, there's people willing to invest their money in that fund because it's a good proposition. The bank is willing to borrow money because it's a good proposition, not because I'm asking a favor. So I had to understand, okay, so people pay rent, they get benefits, they get also, how can we make this work? Where can we get other streams of money? Where can we get subsidies? I work together with a fund to help people go back to work. When we are going back to work, I talk to the contractor and say, okay, so this is the price of building this house, but what if we do, for example, all the electricity work? And then I get the electricians from the camp to say, you can earn some money and do the electricity here. So I try to connect the different things, and then when you are busy with these type of projects, there is money because you help people to get a job. Yeah.
Sorry, just here.
Hello.
Yep.
Do you already know then who will live in these houses? Are you already working with the specific families?
Obviously, those 4 houses are families we know, and they also invest their own money. So they stay. We have a really long list of people who like to live in the social housing, and we have been avoiding the point of people committing yet. The reason is I want to be absolutely sure that what I tell them that is big and it will cost you that much money, and this is the contract. So everything needs to be finished before I will come to people to say this is it. Quite a bit, so yeah.
So, are you on your diagram there was a housing cooperative. Are you setting that up then, or does that already exist as an organisation?
For this.
You've set it up for this specifically?
Yeah, so we set the fund up for this, we set the housing co-op up for this too.
Yeah.
The reason, if you just set up the housing co-op, then the bank says, well, I've got to deal with all these they don't pay, then I don't get my money. A step further to create safety for the bank, you will definitely get your money back. And it has to do with the exit strategies of the housing. So what if people don't want to live there? Then we have to sell it or we have to redevelop it. So is that a good proposition? I want to know. So you start thinking ahead of these type of scenarios.
So will the, I work for a housing provider. So will the people who live, will they build their own houses essentially? Is that what you're doing? Or not?
Well, not quite. That's what we wanted to do. That's not quite how it can work because so what we have done now, we have a really environmentally sound, very good structure that will be built for the money that we borrow. But it's very bare and simple. All the rest we will do.
They will do.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you everyone for indulging.
Can you just explain a little bit as well about where the funding's coming from? Because there is some funding, isn't there, coming through, just how it breaks down.
Right, so there is a scheme from government where they say if you house a person who comes out of a refugee centre, there is €6,000 for that person. And you can basically decide yourself whether you want to spend it on redeveloping an empty property, whether you want to build something new, or it doesn't matter, as long as you house them. So we use some of this subsidy, then we use money for private investors, they get 5% on their money, so it's a good deal. And then there's an environmental friendly bank who will borrow us half of the money. Yeah?
If you're a cooperative, do the families who live in the houses, will they have a stake in the cooperative? So then you can sell at the end, will they then get a share back?
Yeah.
Or who will get that at the end?
So the housing co-op will, in 10 years' time, will be able to buy all property of the fund. Then the fund will disappear out of this picture. When it's in the hands of the housing co-op, we make the rules in such a way that people can buy their own house, or apartment, or room, whatever. We're going to cut it off.
So is there a time scale? As you said at the beginning that there was 4 stages. I mean, if people are living there, can stay there and buy their own house and stay there? Or do they have to move somewhere else?
No, they can stay there. And it's also really difficult if you come out of a refugee center. You get very little money, And the next step onto property ladder, not even that, but just to rent another house is really difficult because there's not enough houses. So I think the people who will live there first, they will take a while before they, maybe go and do something else in their life. But they can stay there. And the whole idea is we invest together as a cooperative in this whole 2 hectares of land. We make permaculture gardens, we make the houses beautiful. So if you want to buy your own beautiful house, that's possible after 10 years. But we do want that commitment also from people to invest in that place.
Can you just say a little bit about how the social enterprise side works? Because I know you're alongside that creating employment for people, because those two things just seem to be very interlinked.
Yeah.
The cafe and...
Yeah, so there's very different type of employment. There's a few artists, they want to just make work, and we help them now with some materials and exhibition opportunities and things like that. But there's also all the other people, like cooks, electricians, whatever. So what I've done is I made a market research in the area of these neighbors. And I said, what if we have a team of gardeners? Would you be interested in their service? What if we have a team of builders? What if we have a team of bakers? Whatever. We start baking fresh bread. And then quite a few filled in the form, and there was a lot of interest for some services. So those are the first ones we're going to develop. And what I ask from these people is, if you want to be in, let's say, the garden team, I'm looking at maybe 5-6 people, that one of them will run this as if it was his own company. But it will stay part of the cooperative. So yeah, we'll be running a restaurant, and we'll see how it goes.
It's just wondering, because you're sort of describing an extraordinary ecology, sort of an ecology that's very integrated and connected, and both sustainable as well, but also something that's probably challenges the way in which integration is implemented, both in terms of policy and in terms of practice. Have people come to see this? Are you in conversation with, say, state agencies, local agencies around this model?
Yeah, we do. We are supported by the council to continue this project. They were the first one to say, this is never going to work. And now they say, oh yeah, okay. No, but we have, for example, a group of people, even a few who advise national government, advising us, and at the same time learning how this is going to go. Because there's quite a few cooperatives, and they didn't manage because they didn't get the money from the bank. And the big cooperatives who are supposed to make the social housing, they are also, and are you going to do all that garden work yourself? And then you get into conversation, oh, maybe I could use help. And then people warm up. So I don't expect any problems with the business.
Can I ask a quick question about, I didn't quite understand the ownership model. So is it, am I right in the fact that after 10 years people can then buy the properties?
Yes, so for the first 10 years, the fund is the owner of those social housing and the community centre. But it's run by the cooperative. And then after 10 years, because what we do is we pay the fund more than we owe the fund. And we're building up a little pot of money in the fund, which helps us after 10 years to buy it back. And when it's ours, we can determine what we do with it.
I see. So, because I was confused about the structure of ownership. It was like mutual ownership.
It's a cooperative.
Yeah.
Even the fund is a cooperative. So the house is a cooperative, it's also a cooperative. And basically, when it's in the hands of the cooperative, we can together decide what's the right way to go. But we know that it's really difficult in Holland to get onto this property ladder. Yeah. So I think a lot of people will want to buy their own apartment.
And so people will then want to buy out of the co-op and essentially buy their own house.
Yeah.
I live in a housing co-op that's it's like 85 properties, and we're kind of looking at expanding. And obviously there's different models. Part of the reason I think our co-op still surviving is because people rent and it's a mutual ownership. So I don't know if you know, but right to buy stuff
hasn't impacted us because our tendencies are essentially mutual. And I'm just wondering what happens if you allow people to then own their own house. Is that still a cooperative, or is that then just people?
Does the court dissolve as soon as people start buying their own houses or considering to buy their own property? Would the court then dissolve and then it turns into something completely different, or how?
Well, I suspect that it won't all be sold off. Some will. And also we will want to have the ownership or we want to be able to determine the 2 hectares, how the gardens are run. So I don't think you will dissolve it completely, and you might even buy it with, still a membership to a cooperative who's still running the grounds, let's say.
Yeah, because it just seems like a lot of it's, in the 80s when our co-op started, there was more funding and there wasn't the need to kind of do this mixed tenure of obviously private ownership and mutual ownership. So it's just interesting that.
Perhaps we can ask Julie, who's respondent now, and then we make the same.
Right, okay. Sorry, can I just be clear? Am I responding to all the cases?
Just Tom's.
Oh, right, I've made extensive notes about everything. We need another day. Okay. It's great. I ran a cooperative, so I love the cooperative model. I think it's fantastic. But in a cooperative, how do you distribute roles and ensure that everyone is doing their fair share? And not everybody necessarily has the same skills. So, you've become the property manager, but maybe that's not what everybody wants to do. So that's just a question about structure, if you like, in cooperatives, and can be successful as opposed to a cooperative because people aren't doing their fair share. So
I can only say what I think will happen because it hasn't happened yet. In charity, we run a community centre. In this centre, last year we had 12,000 people coming. It's well used. We run children's workshops, adult classes, language, whatever, all different things. But the one thing we do with all activities is when people come, we always ask them what they want and also what they give. So you might do a language class but help out with the children workshops, or you might take part in, so you're not just coming to get. And by doing this, we built this whole organization up. The administration is run by volunteers. Everything is done by volunteers. They also get a lot out of it.
I had some more questions, if that's okay. What else then could arts projects do and artists do? In what other ways could artists go one step further to address social problems? What do you think?
Well, I think the process of creating something new, that's what a lot of people need, at least in Holland. They sit alone at home, doing nothing, watching telly. Not everybody, but a lot of people do, especially when you come new into Holland, you come into a refugee camp, you finally get your house, and then you're alone. So some people have family and it doesn't happen to them. Some people are very entrepreneurial and they just get on with it, but a large group doesn't. And especially for this group, if you help them to connect, and if you help them to get involved in creating a beautiful garden or doing some cooking, or then that can really help. And it then works also both ways. And in this group, we actually find our most loyal volunteers because they know there's not really a lot of option in Holland. It's very hostile. If you're not Dutch, forget it. When your language is not good enough, you don't get a good job. There's many jobs that need to be done, but still the people are unemployed at home. And I speak to people who say, I've followed every advice, I've done every voluntary opportunity, and I still don't have a job. And that's just how it is. And it's not nice. But then I think, okay, so we should more look at each other. How can we help each other? Because waiting for a solution is not going to happen. And I think that's also a link to Brexit here. The solution is not just going to happen. So you have to look at each other what you can do, how you can help each other.
Building shelters, refuges, building something permanent seemed very important.
I would say it's one group because they are facing the same issue for the moment I start working. So facing by migrants, one it is. If you are a asylum seeker and refugee, I think they are facing, I would say 4 things. One is what I get to see is as often depression, self-esteem that they are losing on themselves, and this, we talk about emotions, but then I will talk about more to do with policy. They are facing more than others to do with themselves. Someone, I remember, you said, I think, Tom, they were like people who were very skilled in their own countries. But then when they come in this country, they are facing that you're not allowed to do anything. So what about all the work, all the years that I put into myself? Now, at the moment, I'm not allowed to use that. I've been talking with someone who is a doctor, a very quite qualified person in this country, Libya. When he came here, he's not allowed even to go to anything, to practice anything what he does. So that was depressing him and pulling him away. He has to attend like small things that to do with trainings and ESOLs and things. And like, I'm a qualified person, I can speak very good English, but how can I use this? I didn't want to come here. I didn't come here to stay for like £5 a day. So that's, again, as I speak to you, I said I will talk about emotionally, they're putting people in a very hard situation. I had a meeting with someone today and he said to me, Ramona, I didn't know that I'm coming to the UK. When I'm departing from the country, I will not know where I'm going. I will not know what situation. And there was another question that someone said to me, but in my country, Romania, people are talking about UK, you know, they're bringing stuff and they are coming. But it looks like in this country, people are not coming back to talk about their own experience, to share what it is, even good or bad. And that's making 2 different things. One is creative, negative, and positive. Some of the people who are taking immigrants, they say, oh, all the people who go back to this country, they even came back, and they know why, because they're doing so well. People not doing well, other people mention it to the other people who want to influence them to come in the country or making traffic of some of these people. They're doing so well, but they're not doing well. The reason is they're not allowed to get documents, they're not allowed to travel back, even go to see their families. They're isolated from children, families, and they're putting so many efforts even to get a chance to speak to their families or to see their families. But I'm a mother of 4 children, and that's for me something that I would consider dramatically, to be honest with you. Going back to the Europeans. The Europeans, I've been working with the Europeans from 2009 to 2016. And I would say they are very integrated. To them going to school, they were going in high-skilled jobs because from 2014, the Europeans were allowed to work before treated with Bulgaria and Romania were not allowed to work. They were allowed to be only self-employed, but that has been changing. And people were going into very high skills work, took the opportunities from what they use in the country to pull out into England, being teachers, being managers, working in different places. Children are, I want to do that, I want to do that, I have the opportunity now. But since Brexit, just like collapse, like someone's like gun is coming in a wall and throw it away and fell down. I also working with young people, and all the people that are working in 2016 now, I follow them back and say, hi, how are you doing? We just go, I drop over one. So why? What is the reason for it? Why do I have to implicate? What is the reason? What Britain give me now? If they give me, like, sorry for using this word, a kick in the ass, that is, are we not welcome here? So the perception from the Europeans at the moment is all confusion. It's creating such a lot of confusion because they read the newspaper that there's someone saying something, the other newspaper is saying something. They try to find information about what is going to happen to them. And to be honest with you, the only thing I say to them is this: I don't know. There's nothing enrolled yet. But when I was sat at that table, I saw on the 29th of March, Article 15 will be launching, that they will, UK will leave the European countries. And now I can say something. I would say the 29th will decide what's going to happen to you. So what is going to happen? I don't know even. Because people are saying, so what are the changes? And I said, we have to go for what they decide. At the moment, we cannot decide for ourselves.
Can I answer that question? I think that all marginalised communities feel that they have no voice. The communities we're talking about, the refugee communities and migrant communities, feel that they have no voice, and some of our more peripheral, poorer communities feel that they have no voice, that they've not been listened to. So people have a sense of they've lost hope in many of these communities. They don't trust people anymore. They don't trust authorities anymore. Certainly don't trust the institutions, the political institutions anymore. And many people feel let down. So migrants who are coming here feel let down. If they just did what European nationals were all doing because of freedom of movement, suddenly they've been let down, and they feel let down, not just by the British system. I think they feel let down by the EU as well. They feel let down by that kind of global, by that more kind of international problem, if you like. And obviously our communities here feel let down too. I think this fear of the other is very big, and that's partly why I'm so interested in what you were doing, because that's not what my report was about. So a fear of the other and a fear of the unknown. And we know that here more in central Manchester, where the intercultural dialogue is much more every day for us, it's much more common, that in our more peripheral communities that dialogue is harder. And that's why the projects that we're seeing that you're doing are more important, because you're doing them in the peripheral areas and not just doing them in the places where we have a very good example already. So I think those things, insecurity, just a general insecurity about people's lives at the present time, and certainly about their lives going forward. I think people feel that they can't plan for the future, and maybe the futures that they had hoped for are not there anymore, and not within their grasp, either for themselves or, if you're a parent, they're not there for your children and your wider family. So that's the first question.
Second question was about Brexit, I think. Yeah. It was about Brexit. Brexit has been dividing people in two ways. I think this is what I'm talking, what I think, and I know as well from my own opportunities, my own experience. Brexit has been divided, as I mentioned it before. Divided, someone said, we have nothing to do with the people who are
us in a very good light, and then we have Boris Johnson going off around the world as our Foreign Affairs Minister, saying and doing the most awful things in our name. So there isn't, we have a really big problem. And we have social cohesion, you're saying within the migrant community, but we also have it within the host communities too, and within generations, within families. We have this division now everywhere. We have north-south division, we have city-country division, we have generational division, and I think it's probably true to say that pretty much all racists voted out. Not all people who voted out were racists. So we also have Remainers, who are in many ways progressively on the left, but still voted out. So we have this political division as well, which is very difficult. And when I talk about this, and I just realised there's, this other cost is this cost of how we are perceived by the rest of the world. So I feel as if, since I was elected in 2014, never having been in politics before, being very upset and angry about the racist agenda and the Euroscepticism in the Daily Mail and all those newspapers, and they've got a field day now. Okay, racism has been normalised, okay, by our government and by what's happened, and by the Leave campaign. That's what's actually happened. And now we have, and I feel like since I've been elected, that what I've been doing is trying to rebuild broken relationships with other countries. That's actually what I do all the time, is trying to reassure those other countries and politicians from other countries and other people that I'm meeting. And I work right across Europe and the world now, and I'm constantly saying sorry for my country and trying to say, well, actually, we're not all like that. But if I can just go on to talk about hope, because that was the next question, and it's awful to be here talking about how bad things are going to be. And I think that if hard Brexit is what we're going to get, things are going to get worse, not better, all right? And in every way, that things are going to get worse. But there has to be hope. You know, I only came into politics to defend the EU, and I feel like, oh God, I failed, you know, like I did this big thing, I got rid of Nick Griffin and all the rest of it, and then I failed, like we're out, we're coming out. But I refuse to be dysfunctional, because if I'm dysfunctional, I can't help the young people who come after me. And I worked with young people for years before I did this, and it was young people who wanted to remain. And I employ amazing young people, both in the European Parliament and here in the UK. And I support, on the Education and Culture Committee, youth policy is part of what I do. And I work, in fact, with young people right across Europe. And it's not just young people in the UK who are feeling upset, sick, ill, worried about this. Young people right across Europe are feeling the pain of what is happening to us. So I think it's really important to find ways of being functional. We have to be functional because we can't abandon each other. We can't abandon the future. We can't abandon what are our true values, I think, the true British values. And you only have to look at how many people support refugees, even though the Daily Mail will continue to scapegoat refugees, asylum seekers and migrants. Ordinary people don't. Ordinary people want to support refugees. They're giving money, they're going on aid missions, they're giving their time, they are welcoming refugees. So I think there is hope. And movements like the City of Sanctuary, which is now becoming more and more present in many of our cities, is for me an example of that. And that is a place where people from many different kinds of diverse communities can come together. And that includes those people who are new residents who have just come. They can find each other. I was at the launch of Preston City of Sanctuary, and it was the migrant communities who provided the food, who provided the entertainment, who gave testimonies as well. So I think that there is hope. And also, some of the migrant communities that have been here a very long time are very, very organised, and the Muslim communities in Manchester and Lancashire are incredibly well organised. So when the floods happened in December 2015, and my constituency is from Crewe to Carlisle, 7 million people, so when the people in Cumbria had those awful floods, and many of them are still climate refugees, not living in their own homes, more than a year after the floods, the very first communities to go to Cumbria, to dig those people out, to clean their homes, to take them food, were the Muslim communities from Blackburn, from Preston, from Manchester, from Birmingham, from Leicester, from London. It was those communities, and they were organised. They knew how to bring the things that people needed. And it wasn't just food, people needed a home, actually, and that was possible. So one of the things we're going to do in Cumbria in the summer, in the weekend, the More in Common Joe Cox Memorial Weekend, we're having a mellah. I said we should have a mellah, and we're doing it because I overheard a conversation in a church where Mr. Muller from the Muslim community in Preston or Blackburn, he said to the vicar, the vicar said to him, why aren't we doing this in the good times? And for me, that phrase has lived with me ever since. So we need to make the celebrations that we're used to here in Manchester, we need to make them happen in other places too. Anyway, that's a positive, and maybe that's also answered the question about art and culture.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think it is time for food though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And eating together is really, really important.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. And I think we'll make the transition into art and culture then in the focused 4 groups in the afternoon. But thank you both, Mona and Julie.